We have returned, you beautiful individuals, to League on Lock. Talking now a little LCK offseason. And so far, and it's still very early on, we're still waiting on some big names on where they're going to end up. But it's been the Gen G show with the BDD and Clid signing. They look rock solid and like maybe not the favorites because we still have to wait on where Griffin is going and what SKT's roster is going to look like. But they look like a top 3 team at worst heading into 2020, which they did not look like at all throughout 2019. So big improvements from them. And with Clid and Con SKT, it was almost time to hit the panic button. Coma, you better make sure that he is coming back in 2020. But the boys from SKT or T1, it's going to take me so very long to get that name change right as the organization switches for 2020. They have their replacement for Clid. It's not Haru. He left the team as well. And Crazy is not replacing Khan. He left the team as well. It is former Dragon X and Kingzone Cuzz will be coming in for the jungle spot for a multi-year contract with SKT. And now, initially, people are going to say, oh, you got Cuzz and you couldn't get Clid? Anyone who isn't Tarzan is going to be a downgrade from Clid because he was the best performing member of SKT throughout the entire year and the best performing jungler throughout playoffs and at Worlds from the LCK. He was probably the best right there with Tarzan. So anyone who isn't him is going to be a slight downgrade. But I don't think Cuzz is as bad a downgrade as some people might be thinking. You remember there were, at the peak of Kingzone last year when they were looking really good, it was not deft 1v9ing in a lot of these games. He was playing Morgana. He's playing the mages in the bottom lane. He did not need to carry because Cuzz was playing at an all-pro level. Him and Rascal had developed some fantastic synergy. They had obviously played together for a long time, but Cuzz was quickly cementing himself as that third jungler behind Clid and Tarzan, right there with somebody like On Fleek. He had some suspect moments as well. I mean, he definitely fell off a cliff a little bit towards the end, but come on, that entire Kingzone roster did, and that's what happens when the coaching staff basically is figuring out the offseason when you're still in the middle of a run to Worlds. So I'm going to give Cuzz a little bit of a pass there, but he is very aggressive. He loves to play a lot of these damage-dealing junglers. The Nidalee, he plays the Karthus, which is something we didn't see Clid play. He actually played the most champions out of any jungler in the LCK for the summer split, so he has a very deep champion pool, and I think he's still young. For a guy who's been around since 2017 on that old Longzhu roster with BDD and Khan, he is still only 20 years old, still has plenty of time to grow, plenty of time to develop. He was the top-ranked solo queue player in Korea, going back and forth with Dopa there. They had a nice little mid-jungle battle to the top of the ranking. So with an organization like T1, assuming that they can lock up Coma, assuming that he wants to continue coaching, that is just, we know how fantastic he is at developing junglers, and I think Cuzz still has plenty of room to develop. He's obviously a mechanical god, and playing with Faker, we know junglers can look even better than they have in previous years. And on Kingzone, their strength was not at all the mid lane, whether it was Nahun or even Pawn when he was on there. That was not going to be the emphasis or the focal point of a team. If Cuzz can develop some synergy with Faker, I mean, they're going to be as unstoppable as Clid and him were. And you know that Faker loves somebody who grinds out solo queue. And to be number one on the ladder, you definitely have to do a whole lot of grinding. So it's not Clid, but I think it is a solid move and a move in the right direction for SKT, and he's probably the best available jungle remaining on the market. So good move for them. Top lane, still a question mark. We have a familiar face coming back to the LCK after his forgettable run with Misfits. Gorilla is coming back to Korea, and he is joining Sandbox Gaming, which, I mean, if this is LEC version of Gorilla, I'm not sure it's that big an upgrade over Joker, but obviously Kingzone, Longzhu, Rocks Tigers Gorilla was maybe the best support in the world in his heyday. So now we have Gorilla, and Root in the bottom lane. The other three are still the same for Sandbox, but they do have Fate. They just signed Fate from the Challenger scene, who has been one of the best mid laners from there. There's a good chance we see him starting over Dove, or at least splitting time. Dove was pretty solid throughout the entirety of 2019 for Sandbox, and as we know, the roster as a whole definitely overperformed to what we were expecting. They made playoffs in both splits. They finished 4th in spring, 3rd in summer, which is definitely more than most people were expecting. The bot lane was a weak point for them. Does Root and Gorilla coming in completely change that? I'm not entirely sure. We know that Root was clearly the only shining star and bright spot that we had in Jin Air during their 0-18 season. So I'm excited to see him on a much better team. I think Sandbox absolutely still going to be a playoff squad in the 2020 spring split. I hope Gorilla kind of finds that return to form. A lot of these guys are still very unproven, so well, they proved that they can make playoffs, but they're young in their careers, and having a veteran like Gorilla, who's been around since 2014, is going to be huge for the roster. Excited to see Sandbox, but that is all the time today for League Unlocked. My name's Eric. Thank you guys for hanging out as always. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.